You know the music. Those passionate, unforgettable melodies from the opera Carmen are known by everyone, but you don't know the man who wrote them. Behind the respectable facade of the romantic composer Georges Bizet hid a life full of dark secrets, scandals, and tragedies. This is a story about an illegitimate son, hidden for decades, about visits to brothels and a reputation for debauchery, about a catastrophic marriage to a mentally unstable woman, about agonizing illnesses treated with barbaric methods, and about a mysterious death at age 36 that still fuels theories of murder and suicide. This is the story of the real Georges Bizet. One of Bizet's most shocking secrets was kept for nearly 40 years. In 1862, when the composer was just 24, his family's housekeeper gave birth to a baby boy. His name was Jean, and he was Georges' son. But the world was never supposed to know. To avoid scandal, the family committed a monstrous deception. The child was passed off as the son of Bizet's own father. In this way, Bizet's son was raised as his younger brother. The truth was only revealed on the housekeeper's deathbed, 38 years after Georges himself had died. This episode is just the tip of the iceberg. As a young man, Bizet was a regular at Parisian brothels, legal houses of tolerance marked by red lanterns. His reputation was well known. Friends knew of his numerous affairs with opera divas and prostitutes. Even the BBC would later note that Bizet had a reputation for sexual impropriety, a serious stain in the Victorian era. It was even rumored he had an affair with the first singer to play Carmen, which only added fuel to the fire of his unhappy marriage. In 1869, Bizet married Geneviève Halévy, the daughter of his late teacher, but this marriage was doomed from the start. Geneviève grew up in a world of tragedy. Her father died when she was 13, her sister at 15, and her mother suffered from fits of insanity. She inherited this mental fragility. Contemporaries described her as neurotic and unstable. Their family life was a hell, with her mother constantly interfering, worsening the composer's depression. Geneviève's behavior after her husband's death only deepens the mystery. She demanded that all of Bizet's friends destroy the letters he had written them in the last 5 years of his life. Mentions of his death mysteriously vanished from her uncle's diary. What was she trying to hide? What truth about her husband's final days and death was she so desperate to bury? The tragedy haunted this family for generations. Their only son, Jacques, repeated the family history of mental torment. After becoming an alcoholic and a morphine addict, he took his own life at the age of 50 by shooting himself. His mother had to endure this as well. As if the chaos in his personal life wasn't enough, Bizet's body was a prison of pain. His entire life, he suffered from horrific throat ailments, likely due to a ruinous passion for smoking. At age 20, he developed a severe abscess in his throat. The treatment was barbaric. Doctors placed 12 leeches directly into his throat. In the final months of his life, the illness returned with a vengeance. Another abscess nearly suffocated him. He went completely deaf in his left ear, and he suffered from agonizing joint pain. His financial situation was no better. Despite his genius, Bizet lived in poverty. To survive, he worked 16 hours a day, arranging other people's music for publishers. In his letters, he cried out in despair, "I work like a slave. I am exhausted. I am literally tearing myself apart. I need money. Money, always money. To hell with it." His own operas failed one after another, with critics showing no mercy. And then came 1875, the premiere of Carmen. It wasn't just a failure, it was a colossal scandal. The audience was shocked by everything. A sexually liberated gypsy heroine who smokes, smuggles, and manipulates men. The immoral behavior, the brawls, and finally, a brutal murder right on stage. Conservative Paris was horrified. Critics tore the opera to shreds. Bizet's former teacher, Charles Gounod, publicly accused him of plagiarism, stabbing him in the back. The scandal was so loud that the government nearly stripped Bizet of the Legion of Honor medal he had just received. For the composer, it was the final blow. In late May, depressed and ill, Bizet retreated to his country house. On May 30th, he took a swim in the cold Seine River. That night, he was struck down by a violent attack of rheumatism and a high fever. On the night of June 1st, he had his first heart attack. The doctor declared the crisis was over. But 2 days later, a second one struck, and the doctors, arriving too late, pronounced him dead. Georges Bizet was only 36 years old. He died exactly 3 months after the premiere of Carmen, on the day of his 6th wedding anniversary. But was it simply an illness? The suddenness of his death gave rise to dark rumors. A close friend of the composer claimed to have seen a cut wound on the deceased's neck. He suspected a neighbor who had been openly pursuing Geneviève and wanted her husband out of the way. Another theory is suicide. Before leaving for the countryside, Bizet had put all his affairs in order, as if preparing for the end. Broken by failure and illness, could he have inflicted the wound himself? The family's destruction of his letters only fuels the fire. Murder, suicide, or a tragic accident? We may never know the truth. The tragic irony is that Bizet died believing Carmen was his greatest failure. He never saw it conquer Vienna, London, and New York just a year later, becoming an immortal worldwide hit. Thousands attended his funeral. The press that had destroyed him 3 months earlier now called him a genius. The composer, whose life was a series of scandals, illnesses, and failures, created a work that has endured for centuries. Perhaps it was precisely that tragic life, full of suffering and disappointment, that allowed him to create music so passionate, so real, and so immortal.